Okay, hey everybody, good afternoon. My name is Scott McCutcheon with Sovereign Studios. Welcome to episode 6 of the Yamaha Virago project. So if you've been following the channel up until now, we've gotten this thing starting to look like an actual motorcycle. Now that we have the front forks and the rear swing arm on. I'm hoping today we're going to do controls. We're going to get the handlebars back on and start looking at what we're going to have to do to make the R6 cables and stuff work with the Virago. So let's see what we got. Okay, so first things first, we're going to look at some of the parts that we have available here. Real quick, this is the left-hand side. So you'll see here we have the clutch control lever, your high beam and low beam headlamp switch, your turn signal switch, and your horn. So all this stuff still has the original R6 wiring to it, and we're going to try and hook this up to the Virago's wiring harness. Well, we're going to rebuild a custom wiring harness for this thing, but we're going to get all these switches working again. And then of course we have the clutch cable itself right here, right? Up here we have the right hand side, so this will be the throttle cable, your engine turnover switch, your ignition switch, and the right hand brake control lever there. We also have the horn and whatever this is, this little splash shield thing, wire routing guard that goes on the base of the forks here. So as you can see from this thing here, right, we need to loosen those up so that we can slide the control clip-ons back onto the forks. So let's go ahead and do that first. Everything else with these clip-ons seems to be the kind of thing that we should be able to clip on all the extra pieces, like the throttle cables and this brake bit here, right? So this piece here actually comes apart. So we'll show you that here in a moment. But for now, we're going to go ahead and loosen this up so that we can get the forks lifted off the bike. Right, those look okay. So the now that we have the handlebars or the clip-ons actually on, what we need to do is get them mounted in place. So you'll see that right now they're not tight and they can be turned. So I'm not keeping that tight just yet, and the reason is because of this bolt here. So I'm relatively certain that bolt actually slides in through here, and the trick to getting this bolt off, you can actually pop this cap off here, set that aside, and then you can, well, you might have to get a regular Allen key, pop that thing out. Right, and with the bolt out, okay, now we can slide it up, and you'll see where it kind of sits flush right there. And I don't know if you can see that, but it pretty much aims right down in there. And so we just slide the bolt in there and kind of tighten it down. So So that makes sure that, you know, the handlebar doesn't move anywhere, or the clip-on doesn't move anywhere, and that you know, we always have the right angle, the correct arm angle and stuff. So that's good, good. And just tighten that in, and then you can replace the cap, like so. Very good. So we're in good shape there. There's your left side handlebar. We'll do the same thing for the right side here. In this case, we can pop this cover off. Very good, right? There's our steering controls. So next up, we'll try and get this thing remounted. To do that, we're gonna have to put this guy back on and all this stuff. Okay, you know what? Let's start with the horn and the lower valence thing. So this is the horn piece and its bracket. You'll see we have this one spare bolt here. I'll show you what that's for in a second. And these are the other two mounting bolts for this thing. So let's grab some sockets here. I'll pop this back on. So if I recall, it goes kind of like this, right? With this piece at the bottom. Yep, I think. Yeah. With this piece at the bottom, so it all basically will just sit like that. And in this vent, right, you can see how this would clamp kind of over like this. We're going to set it up so that when you pull back on the throttle, I guess we'll use this top throttle cable to actually open it up, right? And then this is the deceleration cable, which again I don't think we're going to end up using, but that's fine. There we go. Snaps in place just like that. I guess it can only fit in one way. It must be notched on the inside. When you find that notch, then you can put the bolts back in, tighten her down. And so you can see these cables, they do work when we move the throttle. Unfortunately, I think they're too short to actually make it over there. You know, so we might have to look into finding some other cables. Because those are too short. So we'll get to that in a future episode. But as one last step, we need to get this thing back in. You'll see it's got a small nut on the bottom. This pin just pops out, and there's really only one way to get this thing back in there. Last thing we're gonna do is put the clutch cable in. So this is the piece that would go down near the motor, and on the R6 it would come down like this, but on this one I think we're gonna have to reroute it somewhere down here. So I'm not really sure on that just yet. We'll find out. But clutch cable goes in just like you know, everything else, or every other clutch cable. This one's a little busted, so we're gonna try and keep it in one piece when we slide it in there. Right, so just like that, and of course there's the actual guard for it. And that was the clutch cable. But again, like I said, we're probably gonna have to reroute it. So for us, it's probably gonna end up, you know, coming down here somewhere. We'll probably have to get it down here, you know, behind this plate to interface with the Virago clutch mechanism. Otherwise, you know, I think we're looking pretty good. Not too shabby. We'll have to fix up that that mount right there. You know, and then of course we'll have to figure out something a little bit better to do with these wires. Otherwise, not too bad. I assume all this stuff will come into the wiring harness somewhere over here, right? And build out the rest of the wiring harness this way. Have all the cables and clutch stuff, throttle cables and whatnot going over there. And it looks like everything else will be in pretty good shape. We're also going to go ahead and remove this front fender, front cowl kind of thing from the R6, just because we're not going to use it for our cafe racer. We might as well get rid of it now, so we start maintaining the look. So it's just a couple bolts to pop this off. Apparently these have nuts on the back, which is arguably disappointing. So we probably will want to keep these spacers, much like we did with the you know, the mid-mount foot pegs. You know, because if we're going to get rid of this part, we still want it to work with the original bolts. And that should make it a little bit easier to put back on. Right? Actually, you know what? I guess we don't have to put these back in. Yeah, we really don't. But we do want to put the rears back in. Just because the rear bolts hold in these brackets. right? Those hold in the brake lines. Let's grab a quick wrench. I'm feeling it's probably going to be a 10 millimeter. Tighten those brackets back up. Sure enough. There we go. Now we're starting to look like a real cafe racer. Well, that should pretty much do it for front controls. I'm glad we were able to get these on. I think everything looks pretty good, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching it. On the next video, we're going to run through, and hopefully we'll be able to do the rear controls, and we'll get the wheel back on, the rear wheel. So that'll be real cool. And at that point, with the rear wheel back on it, you know, we'll be able to start really looking at, you know, we get the rear shock on, we get the gas tank back on, we hook up the carbs, and then maybe we can start building the wiring harness. So we can get all the electronics back up and running. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please hit like, subscribe, do your thing. Maybe check out my game on Steam. It's called Ethereal Legends, an action RPG for those of you who enjoy Dark Souls, that kind of thing. So, yeah, take care.